Everybody, what's going on? Hellmite here, bringing you another video from Grab the Lantern today. It's Wednesday, and the patch notes are patch 9.4 have been posted, which means it's time for another patch note rundown. As always, I'm going through the biggest changes in this week's patch and letting you guys know what you can be looking forward to in the coming weeks. 9.4 is a pretty small one. There isn't that much really going on with this patch as a whole, but there are still some pretty big changes to some significant outliers, particularly in pro play, but a few other things that are going to affect casuals. So let's go ahead and jump right into things. First and foremost, we do have some nerfs to competitive top-tier picks such as Karthus. Now, Karthus, this Q nerf looks really bad on paper because it's literally just 5 base damage off of his Q. But remember that Karthus casts Q a lot more often than some champions cast their abilities, period. So this does add up over a long period of time. It means that Karthus will need more Qs in order to actually kill off camps. He won't be doing quite as much damage with just Q spamming you constantly in lane. It definitely weakens him. I'm not going to say this is going to fix everything with Karthus. I think he still has a lot of potential, especially in professional play. But this will at least make him a little bit weaker and maybe not as much of a must pick or ban. Lucian's getting nerfed again on this patch. Ardent Blaze was really letting Lucian just stack mana flow ban, and he's still going that first and just kind of spamming that onto his enemies. So Riot are trying to nerf that down again to really prevent Lucian from just completely nullifying all of his mana abilities. So the mana cost is up, and the base damage is down by actually quite a substantial amount. It's down by 30 points at maximum rank. So again, I think this does finally kill off W first Lucian, because it's just not going to be worth his time to try and max that out by spamming it in lane, because the 70 mana is really going to add up over a long period of time. So Qmax is probably the best thing to go back to on Lucian, and probably the best starting for Lucian as well. Rek'Sai is getting some quality of life changes. I think this is ultimately a buff to Rek'Sai. I don't know that it's enough to really push her over the top, but if you're a Rek'Sai player or if you're looking to pick her up, this is going to be nice. She now gets 25 Fury when she fires her burrowed Q, the Prey Seeker, and if she's used her unburrowed Q and hasn't used all the attacks, once she burrows, the effect will go on cooldown, so that'll allow her to sort of burrow and get the ability back a lot faster if she didn't use all of the attacks. So that's a kind of nice change for clearing the jungle. The biggest changes here is that Void Rush can't really be dodged because you have to dash or blink massive distances. So like if you took a Thresh Lantern, for example, you could probably dodge it. But at this point now, it's not as simple as just pressing flash or pressing your dash. If you're someone like Lucian, you really have to move a long ways away in order to avoid the damage. So that's a ton of consistency back to Rek'Sai and a lot of really nice quality of life. So definitely going to be a lot stronger. Again, I don't think she's strong enough to the point where she's start getting played in professional play, but she's definitely a lot better than she was. Sylas has a few quality of life buffs on this patch as well. None of these are really game changing. He got a very slight nerf to the base heal on Kingslayer, but 90% of these changes are all quality of life changes. So it'll just make it nicer to play Sylas. It doesn't really make him any stronger than he was. He does have some changes on PvE right now that are pretty spicy, but at least for the moment, he won't be any better than he is currently on live. I think he's actually in a really good spot on live, maybe a little on the weak side, but these changes should do a lot to help him feel a lot better to play. Thresh is getting nerfed in this patch. He's been way too oppressive in lane just because he always has the ability to throw out hook. So these changes here are basically a revert of the partial changes he got before Worlds, because he's just way too good at just constantly spamming hook. So the mana cost up and the cooldown up as well is really going to hurt Thresh and make him have to sit on that hook and really make sure if he's throwing it that he's almost guaranteed to land it, because otherwise he's punished a lot more for whiffing his hooks. Urgot, our favorite champion, the last of the OPs, is finally getting nerfed on this patch. He was just still way too good at trading into everybody. He was really the last remaining OP champion. Pretty much Aatrox is now in a good spot. Akali obviously just fell off the face of the earth. Aurelia's in a good spot, but Urgot was still really strong. So these nerfs actually do a lot to knock him down. The mana cost up on Corrosive Charge really hurts his ability to harass in lane, especially given that he maxes that first most of the time. The biggest changes here, though, is the Purge change. 65 mana at all ranks is a huge nerf to his early game, especially given that he could max that second if he really wanted the additional sustain and durability. But the biggest changes here is the shield. It got a very minor buff to the base scaling in the early game because it'll go up to 190 base, but the 0.15 bonus health scaling is massive. Urgot will not have this shield like at all, except maybe at the break of a fight where he's pressing the ability. So this is actually huge. It means that Urgot's significantly less tanky in game. Even building health isn't going to feel very good on Urgot anymore. Now, this does have the side effect of making health less of a good option on him, so he's going to have to build a lot more damage to compensate, I think, because full tank is not going to be nearly as effective. He just doesn't scale scale with it quite as well. But generally, I think this is honestly going to be enough to really put Urgot out. I think he's still playable in the same vein that Aatrox is playable and Aurelia is playable. But is he like a top tier pick or even an A tier pick? I would probably say no. I think this really, really hurts Urgot, which is nice for the rest of us because we can finally lane and not have to deal with Urgot, which is nice. Yasuo's getting some small nerfs. The Infinity Edge Revert has buffed him hugely because he got compensation buffs when it was originally nerfed, and then it got reverted, and he kept the compensation buff. So this is a partial revert of those buffs. So the base AD down is nice, and then the Steel Tempest, the crit damage is down by 20%. It's down to 60% from 80%. So this should really hurt Yasuo. It means he won't just immediately kill you by hitting you with his Qs. So that's nice. He'll still get played a ton because he's Yasuo and everyone loves him. The crit changes were huge for him, but it definitely means that he won't be quite as strong as he was before. Expect to still see a ton of Yasuo though. Finally, Zed is actually getting the Reaper of Shadows removed from his R because that was really constraining Zed on who he could try to go to assassinate, because sometimes the highest AD target wasn't always the person you wanted to kill. So instead, Riot are tossing him some other buffs as compensation. The Living Shadow recast range has been significantly increased, and the cooldown's actually down at all ranks, which is a really big deal because Zed, that's usually a last max for him, so having the 2 extra seconds off is a big deal. It means that he's a lot safer in lane. And then the Razor Shuriken damage actually got buffed up by quite a bit. Just the additional bonus AD scaling and the additional 10 damage is a pretty big deal on Zed. So he won't be insta-giving people, but not having to rely on going for an AD target is actually a pretty big deal. And I do like these changes. I think it's a good buff for Zed as he has been struggling a bit lately. Moving on to runes, Conqueror is actually getting a almost revert to the Days of Fervor of Battle, which, if you don't remember, basically gave you adaptive force based on whenever you hit an enemy champion with an auto attack or ability. The biggest issue with current Conqueror is you can just stay in combat with minions and keep it primed, and the second you go for the trade, you have it at full strength. This now requires you to ramp it up over time, so you won't get the full benefit until you've hit someone with enough abilities or with enough auto attacks in order to get it. So damaging attacks and abilities give you adaptive force for 3 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. And at 5 stacks, you get 10% of your damage to true damage, and you heal for that amount. Now, the true damage conversion is down, but the healing is a big deal because on bruisers, especially people like, let's say, Kled, who really rely on being in the middle of the fight, the sustain is actually going to be quite nice. The other thing is, it's now adaptive force, not AD. So Singed, eat your heart out. You can actually take this rune and do quite a bit of true damage plus the healing. That might be an option, possibly. Now, damage over time effects only grant 1 stack every 5 seconds. So again, maybe it's not the best thing for damage over time champions, but it is an option now. So I do like these changes. I think it's actually pretty good. Maybe not a buff or a nerf, but I do think it's an adjustment and one that we're going to have to learn to deal with. Maybe a slight nerf if I had to put my finger on it, but it will reduce the power of Conqueror. Finally, items. Essence Reaver's just getting some minor buffs because it was a little bit weak, so it's getting additional AD. The CDR is now unique, and it now appears in the correct shop categories. Finally, to kind of recap on some of the things that were pushed to live in a hotfix, the Frostmancy strategy is gone from the game. Now, if you're not aware of what that was, essentially you could take Kleptomancy top lane with a Spell Thief's Edge and literally not last hit minions and just harass your opponent, and you'd get more gold than your opponent would by last hitting, which is ridiculous. So these changes have already been pushed to live. This is just to remind everybody that they are in the game. You cannot use them anymore. Yes, it is a heavy-handed approach. I don't expect this to stay forever. In the similar line to the Bounty Hunter changes that they had to add to the jungle to stop funneling from happening, this is the same sort of thing here. They're taking a deliberately heavy-handed approach just to get it out of the game while they try to come up with something a little bit better and a little more elegant to fix things. All of these are really simple buffs. I don't think they really change the effectiveness of the champions, either buffed or nerfed. I think they're just mostly nice to have. They make them feel a little bit better to play. Not a big deal there. There were some VFX and SFX updates for Kennen, Olaf, Riven, and Wukong, so go ahead and check those out. Besides that, the only other change I want to highlight is the ranked changes. Challenger is actually opened as of today, so if you're a high-ranked player, I don't know why you're on this channel, but hey, hello if you are, you can go ahead and try to hit Challenger starting now. And finally, LP Splashing can put your off positions into promos. Now, it can't actually win your promo games, so if you happen to get up to a support promo by playing top lane, you will have to go play your support games in order to get through your promos for that position. But now it won't get you to 100 and then force you to play a game and win it, and then you get your promos. So that's a nice quality of life change, should be a little bit better. Anyways, that's going to be it for me today, guys. Thank you all so very much for watching. Let me know what changes you guys are most looking forward to down in the comment section below. Would love to hear your thoughts. If you enjoyed today's video, go ahead and leave a like. And if you really enjoyed today's video, consider subscribing. I upload a video every Monday, Friday, and on patch days like today as well. And if you're looking for more Grab the Lantern content, you can check out my blog, link down in the description. I upload an article just about each and every single day for your enjoyment. Once again, thank you guys so very much for watching. I do appreciate it. And I'll talk to you all later.